Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to our honorable speaker, our principal, our fellows, and my fellow friends and all participants who are watching our live now with us. Before we start, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Brother Abdul Majid from MRC Bilal, and I will be your speaker for today's event. First of all, let me give you a brief about Rawib 2.0, which is today's event. Rawib is a continuous program from our last year program, which was Rawib 1.0. Apart from our sharing session like we're having now, we also have the Darus session, and we have Quran learning with our Ustad Muhammad, our principal of Mahala Bilal. For today's session, we have Dr. OZIEF Kapoor. A brief introduction to Dr. OZIEF Kapoor. Upon mastering his English and Arabic, Dr. Kapoor OZIEF joined International Islamic University, which is IIUM, in 1998 and graduated in 2002, majoring in Islamic jurisprudence, fiqh and usul al-fiqh, and minoring in political science. He remained at the university to complete his master and PhD in 2004 and 2008, respectively. Currently, Doctor is an associate professor at the Department of Economics at the Faculty of Economics and Management Sciences at the university, teaching various undergraduate and master courses in the Islamic banking and finance. ISFIN students should know Doctor. He's quite famous amongst them. He was twice awarded the Best Teacher Award and has published numerous books and articles in Scopus and ISI. Also, Doctor is a consultant to various projects organized by Islamic Development Bank of Saudi Arabia and in UniRazak with IBFIM, Matrade Consortium of Malaysia, in implementing IBF in Russian Federation as a pilot project. Since 2015, Doctor has also been appointed as a member of the Sharia Board of Experts at the National Rating Agency of Russia. And now I would like to invite Dr. OZIEF to start sharing session with us, which the topic is the status of punctuality in Islam. Please welcome, Doctor.
Yeah, thank you, Brother Majid. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yes, our topic is about status of punctuality in Islam, and this is one of the important topics, I believe, for any Muslim or even any person who wants to be respected and wants to respect others as well. The lack of punctuality, it's disastrous. It has disastrous effect, negative effect on the person who doesn't have the punctuality. Can you hear me? Our line is okay? Connection is good?
Okay.
All right. Let me start with a little briefing on certain negative, commonly known elements that we have. Something that is known as Muslim Standard Time. Muslim Standard Time. It's actually it's a kind of frustrating reality, and besides, it's a sinful act actually that we gave chance to others to describe us in that way. It is completely unacceptable in Islam, and by being labeled as this Muslim Standard Time, we actually reflecting not the actual required aspects and the essence of Islam. Definitely it goes against the etiquette of Islam and the Muslim, and it shows the lack of appreciation for others. And unfortunately, it is uh, in any society across the board, among students, among others, lecturers, sometimes, not all, of course. Those who know me, they know me as somebody who is crazy about punctuality. Um, that's why I like this topic, and I like always to emphasize on it. And any other level of different elements of our societies. Doesn't matter who you choose, drivers or engineers or others and others. Uh, in most cases, people are not punctual. This is a disastrous thing. We really have to work on it. Mm, the other negative effect of it, being late, is actually stealing time. You are robbing time of others. You know, um, and it's something that never come back. Never will come back. If money is stolen, perhaps it can be replaced, it can be compensated. But when the time is stolen, you cannot bring it back. You cannot restore it in any way. It's impossible. Another point that deserves to be mentioned is that when you are late, for example, talking about appointment, and you are late for the appointment, you are showing arrogance. It's like, in simple words, you are giving preference to yourself over others. It's like overestimation of one's self. It's like, never mind, you wait for me. I can come a bit later. You wait for me. Not I'm waiting for you, but you wait for me. So this is arrogance. And arrogance, and anybody who has من كان في قلبه مثقال ذرة من الكبر لا يدخل الجنة. And anybody who has even the small arrogance, a size of atom, will never enter paradise. So see, it's a very serious thing to think about. And being late is also breaking a promise, covenant, agreement, contract, whatever the thing that you agreed upon, you're breaking it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Ma'idah, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu awfu bil uqud. O you who believe, fulfill your promise, fulfill your covenants, fulfill your agreements, and so on and so on. There is another interesting thing for us to think and to focus on. When people agree to meet you, these people have some other commitments as well. And they said to themselves, no, other commitments, even though they might be important, but they are on the second stage. The first thing, I need to meet this person. So they favored you, or they favored this meeting with you over other commitments. So they said meeting this Fulan bin Fulan is number one priority. It's very important. And other things I'll do later. And this much respect is given to this meeting with you, while putting all other important commitments on the second stage. And then after that, you come late. So what do you think the other party, the one who was waiting for you, will think about you? So this is very important. Very important. There is no doubt. You stole their time, and you disrupted their schedule, and definitely it will affect on your reputation and image. If your punctuality becomes poor, you will lose people's respect to you. I tell you a little story. Maybe you heard about this old wise man who used to be in our history. His name was Ahnaf bin Qais. Some history books say that he was among the followers of the companions. Some others say no, even though he was alive, but he didn't see these people, and then he became this from the other generation. Anyway, this was an old, wise, very serious, respectful man from Qurayshis. After the time of Prophet Sallallahu after the time of companions and the followers, he was at that time third generation most probably. And then once he was asked, and they say this guy was so respectful and respected by others that if he said, for example, to the whole Qurayshi tribe, I want you together in XYZ, for example, area, and we're going for war. Nobody would ask single question, why, with who, what for, and so on. If Al-Ahnaf bin Qais says that we need together, khalas, we need together. It's non-negotiable to that extent. And then he was asked, later on, he was asked, how did you manage to get to that level of respect from others, from people, that they just simply follow what you say and they respect you and love you so much? You know what he said? In Arabic, he said, Wallahi, لو عاب الناس الماء لما شربته. If people disliked, or considered as reprehensible drinking water, water is something normal, halal, yani. We all drink water. But if he says, let's say, if people consider drinking water as something makruh, something that disliked, I would stop drinking water. So which means anything that would affect on my reputation, anything that people wouldn't like, even though it's something normal but people don't like, I would stop doing that. So it's a sacrifice, it's a commitment. If only somebody who is very much concerned about about his reputation can do this. This is a very beautiful example that we can take from the history. And another very much, how to say it, unfortunate practice that we have among certain people, among Muslims, is that they say, inshallah, knowing that they're not going to come for the meeting or to fulfill what they say. Allah, it's a sinful act. They will have to answer for this Yawm al-Qiyamah. There is no doubt. How come you say, inshallah, knowing that you are not going to do that? Inshallah is something that you have intention. I'm sorry. You have intention to do that, but you're not sure whether it will happen or not. So that's why it's inshallah. So it's like we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us to make it happen. But when you already know that you're not going to do that, or you're not going to fulfill that, you say inshallah. It's like, how do you think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would be looking at you, whether Allah will be pleased with you? Because He knows what's in your heart. And you knowingly say inshallah, inshallah. This is a very, very ugly behavior, unacceptable behavior. It is not part of Islam, and it is basically a part of hypocrisy. And about hypocrisy, hadith of the Prophet says, أربع من كن فيه كان منافقا خالصا. Somebody who has 4 characteristics is a complete منافق, full منافق. ومن كانت فيه خصلة منهن كانت فيه خصلة من النفاق حتى يدعها. But out of these 4, if he has one of them, any one of them, he has one of the hypocritic characteristics until he leaves it, which means there's a possibility to stop being hypocrite. We have to work on ourselves, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not to be among the munafiqeen. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. إِذَا حَدَّثَ كَذَبَ. When he talks, he lies. Talking, already lying. وَإِذَا اؤْتُمِنَ خَانَ. When he is trusted with something, he betrays. He doesn't fulfill. He betrays the trust. And وَإِذَا عَاهَدَ غَدَرَ. When he has agreement, he doesn't fulfill the agreement. He doesn't keep the promise. And the fourth one, وَإِذَا خَاصَمَ فَجَرَ. And when the quarrel, dispute happens, he transgresses. He goes beyond. he makes it very big issue out of small thing. So these are the four characteristics. If somebody has four of them, he's a complete munafiq. If one of them, it means he has one characteristic of munafiq. So may Allah protect us. Actually, I mean, there is a lot to talk about this. Time may not allow us to cover all the aspects or all the elements that we can mention under the topic of punctuality. But I just to give due haqq, the due respect to the owner of this paper from which I extracted certain points, I need to mention his name, to be honest and to give respect, and the title of the paper from where I extracted certain interesting points. It's a Dr. Awal Abdullahi. He wrote a paper, a contextual analysis on punctuality and an Islamic perspective. There are so many good things, but we are trying to focus on certain things only. Time is something the most precious. It's the most precious commodity that we ever had in our life, because anything else can be substituted. But time, you cannot reverse it. You cannot bring it back. You lose money, you can make another money. Even if something is broken, you can change it or repair it or whatever. Time, you cannot bring it back. And the emphasis on this time can be seen in the Quran and Hadith and so on and so on. For example, the Surah Al-Asr that we all know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. By time, by Asr, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by time, He swears that every man is in a loss, except those who believe and do righteous deeds and recommend one another. They give wasiyah to each other for the truth and recommend one another for patience. All these good characteristics, in order to emphasize on the high level of these good characteristics, that those who believe and commend each other for good things, for truth and patience and so on and so on, in order to stress the importance of it and how valuable it is, Allah says, by time. It's like when we say something, wallahi, right? So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says by time, we as human beings, when we say wallahi, is the same thing, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can swear by anything that He created. Time, daytime, nighttime, as we shall say, mentioned a bit later. But we Muslims were not allowed to swear except by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He is the only one who created everything. But He is, of course, He has right to swear by anything that He wants. We cannot, because if we swear by other than Allah, it means we are putting the thing higher than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are not allowed to do that. So the highest, the strongest, the most powerful, the utmost one is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have to swear, when we swear, only by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the thing. And there are so many ayats when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, wal fajr, by morning time. وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَى, by night time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالنَّهَارِ إِذَا تَجَلَّى, and by daytime, وَالضُّحَى, and by duha time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears by different breaks of this, daybreak of the day, morning time, duha time, daytime, and night time, and so on. And and also, let's mention one of the ayats from the Quran. فَإِذَا قَضَيْتُمْ صَلَاةً فَاذْكُرُوا اللَّهَ قِيَامًا وَقُعُودًا وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ وَإِذَا اطْمَأْنَنْتُمْ فَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ كَانَتْ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ كِتَابًا مَوْقُوتًا. When you have finished your prayer, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, remember Allah, standing, sitting, reclining, which means make zikrullah, mention, praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when you are secure from the danger, keep up your prayer. Surely prayer is a timed ordinance for the believers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala emphasized on the importance of paying attention to the strict, fixed time for each prayer. Okay, so this is very important to know that. And generally, we can bring another situation here when not only punctuality for meeting or appointment, when you don't pay attention, proper attention to the time, you don't give due respect to the time, you don't value the time properly, which means you are going to lose it, you are going to waste it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings example of people who waste their time in this dunya. That's why they happen to be in a hellfire. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. وهم يستريخون فيها ربنا أخرجنا نعمل صالحا غير الذي كنا نعمل أولم نعمركم ما يتذكر فيه من تذكر وجاءكم النذير فذوقوا فما للظالمين من نصير. And they will be crying when they see that they are in the hellfire, in the judgment day, on doomsday, Yawm al-Qiyamah. They will say, bring us out, Ya Allah. It's like, bring us back to the dunya. We will do righteous deeds, not the one that we used to do. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will tell him, didn't we give you enough long time in dunya so that you utilize it in a proper way? This is the meaning of it. Huh? And then, so that you do righteous things and then you'll get Jannah. And so you wasted it. And then you also receive the warner, which means Nazir. And there is a prophet also who explained that there will Yawm al-Qiyamah, that our lifetime is very short. We're going to finish it. How long will you? 60, 70, 80, maximum 100 years. Khalas, this finished. And this is just a transit zone, this dunya. And then the eternity is there in Yawm al-Qiyamah. And then you still wasted it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will respond to that. Khalas, you are zalimun. You are wrongdoers. And there is no chance to help the wrongdoers. Khalas, you cannot be helped. You wasted it. So it's all about wasting time. So it's a general concept. So it's not just simply about the appointment you are being late for, or the covenant or agreement that you break with someone because of lack of punctuality, but even Yawm Qiyamah. So basically, in this dunya, what we're supposed to do, if we don't do it properly, means we waste the time. It means we're not punctual. So that's why, so there is a responsibility before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we don't know where we'll end up in Yawm al-Qiyamah. And of course, the responsibility before people. Now, there is another interesting point here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will punish not only those who don't pray, but those who pray, but they were careless about the timing. فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنْ صَلَاتِهِمْ سَاهُونَ. Curse be, la'na, a punishment, a woe, a curse be upon those who pray. You see, they pray. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala admits that these people, they pray. But what do? They delay the salat time from their stated fixed time. So it's not enough to pray. It's not enough to say, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasul, and then to pray and fast. But you are careless about the fixed timings for the salat. It may be equal to 0. Can you imagine how serious it is? So, subhanAllah. So that's why, if we really, it's all about time management. Somebody who prays 5 times a day, but not on fixed times, there is no management. We need a proper management. So in order to increase the effectiveness, efficiency, productivity, it's all about, in a very short phrase, we can say, doing the right thing at the right time. You might be praying 3 or 4 salat that you miss during daytime in the night time before go to sleep. Qada'an. Qada'an. Not on time. Late. You miss the Zuhr time, Asr time, Maghrib time, and then together with the Isha, you make it. One shot, in bulk. So you are doing the right thing, but the wrong time. The same thing, wrong thing at the right time. You can't do that. But right thing at the right time. That's the only thing. And that is only possible if you are really concerned about time management. And now we'll also find very interesting example in the Quran, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala emphasized on the importance of keeping the promise, fulfilling the promise, which is punctuality, managing whatever you promise. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes Ismail. واذكر في الكتاب إسماعيل إنه كان صادق الوعد وكان رسولا نبيا. This Ismail, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to our Prophet, mention, tell them about Ismail, that he was strictly true to what he promised. Whatever he promised, he fulfills it. In some of the narration stated sometimes he used to stand for all night waiting for somebody or whatever. That, I mean, just to be on time and to keep his promise. And the interesting thing here, we find three things mentioned about Ismail. He was on time. I mean, he was fulfilling his promise. He was a messenger and he was a prophet, Nabi and Rasul, and fulfilling his promise. Nabi and Rasul, these two, on the same level, mentioned the third one. Can you imagine this? What is the high status of keeping the promise, fulfilling the promise? How high it is if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned on the same level with prophet and messenger, and he was keeping his promise. The level of it is very high. So let's go through some of the benefits by being punctual. First of all, it is all about being organized, as I mentioned already, in everything that a person does. Is if we talk about lecture preparation of materials for the students, providing on-time classes, proper way of teaching, proper way of conducting the examinations, giving a due haq to each student. If it is a politician, for example, being honest, which is in contemporary time quite seldom to find, unfortunately. A politician is always associated with a liar. It's very unfortunate, but of course, not everybody is the same. But because of this common thing among these people. So we should be organized to the extent that any challenge that we face, we are able to resolve it and settle whatever the challenge that we face. Readiness. When you are punctual, when you keep your promise, and you are well organized, you have readiness. Readiness to face any issue or to solve any problem that you may face or any challenge. I give you just example of other things. Let's say a taxi driver outside there. You are stopping the taxi and say, okay, and then you tell the destination, the place that you want to go. And taxi driver says, oh, sorry, I I go to the petrol station and buy some petrol. Or he says, okay, I don't know, I need to put some water to my engine or whatever. Add, to the water. Lack of water is there. Or I need to do this. Please let me clean it before we start. I mean, they are certain he is not organized. So what would be your impression? You know what? Please, go. I'll take another cab, right? So the same thing goes for human beings as well. Come back to our university because we are in academia. If a lecturer is shown to be not organized and not properly having this readiness for whatever tasks that he has or responsibility or commitments, 1-2 semesters, believe me, the feedback from the students will be very low because he doesn't deserve more than that, and rightfully so. Okay, and no students will want to register with him. There's no point. He's not well organized, let's say. Or you would talk about anybody in a company who should be the next 2 years senior manager in the company. If he is not managing properly, you don't want to work for him anymore. Okay. Now, how about connectivity and networking? Is it something that can be a result of the punctuality and being organized and ready for face any issues? It is. Um, it is about a good rapport between the person and the management or any place that you have in your society. If you're talking about university, among your colleagues, it attains long strides in having connection and good rapport with people in given society. And the best example, of course, one of the best examples we can take from the trip that Prophet ﷺ had to Damascus, on the request of Khadija before he became prophet, 15 years before that, when he was 25 years old. And the characteristics that he had: honesty, trustworthiness, being punctual, reliable, serious, with all these characteristics, that's what made Khadija to be impressed, and she proposed herself for marriage to him. This is another, another interesting point that we take from this. Then we have another point about respect, about the respect, and we can take just one example, for example, from the history of Prophet Sallallahu about punctuality and trustworthiness, and that our Prophet Sallallahu was nicknamed as Al-Amin, Al-Amin, because he never lied, he never betrayed anybody, he never broke his promise or whatever the covenant that he had with anybody. Okay? There was no single place that Prophet ﷺ broke his promise or agreement with anybody, be it Muslim or non-Muslim. Then, even on the night of migrating from Mecca to Medina, these kuffars who were behind him, chasing him to kill him and other Muslims, and yet Prophet ﷺ left Ali anhu behind. He said, "Great during this amanat that these Qurayshis and others left with me." Can you imagine this? These people are chasing him. They want to kill him on that night. He says, I mean, Prophet ﷺ cannot afford. He cannot afford to go down to the level of those criminals who want to kill him. He is very high. His dignity is very high. Allah subhanahu made him messenger. He cannot belittle himself by going to the level of this criminal, saying, "Oh, you want to kill me? Okay, I take all this amanat and whatever, and I go to Medina." No, he can't do that. He will never do that. He is higher than that. He is more generous than that. He is a messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He has a dignity. He has a big heart. Okay, and that's why he left Ali, and he asked him to return this amanat to those kuffar. Then about credibility. Okay, credibility. When you are punctual, when you keep your promise, when you have all these good characteristics that we mentioned, you have respect, readiness to face any issues, always telling the truth. Okay, and all these good aspects when you have, then you have credibility. Let me give you this one example from the history. When Abu Sufyan, anhu, before he became a companion, when he was one of the very obvious enemies of Islam, and he was among those who wanted to kill Prophet ﷺ if there was any chance. When he went to Byzantine Emperor, this Hercules, to make him not to accept Muslims and to get the support from him, to get rid of these Muslims and so on. And Hercules started asking him questions about the personality of Prophet ﷺ and about the mission. And whatever Hercules asks, Abu Sufyan, of course, even though he is non-Muslim at that time, but he was a man of respect. He used to say the truth. He used to tell the truth. He said, he is the best among us. He never lies. He never breaks his promise. He is not arrogant. He always helps other people. And so on. All the best characteristics that he gave. And then Hercules said, these are the characteristics of messengers. This is quite okay. This is quite normal. There is nothing to say against him. So you see? So it's very important. And then in one of the hadiths, we can say briefly to go through more points, inshallah. One of the hadiths, it is the hadith from Ibn Mas'ud, أي الأعمال أحب إلى الله تعالى. What are the best or the most beloved deeds to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And Prophet said, As-salatu ala waqtiha, the prayer at, at the specific early time, not salat fi waqtiha. There is in Arabic there is a difference between ala and fi, on time and in time. In English, almost the same translation. On time is about punctuality. In time, between the two. For example, salat zuhr on time. The moment there is azan, then you pray. For example, in Jama'ah, exactly when there is a beginning of time. That is salat ala waqtiha, on time. In time, before Salat Asr comes, within this time, between Zuhur and Asr, you pray, this is in time. It will never be on the same level as ala waqtiha, as at the early one, because the due respect that is given to the beginning. So that's the emphasis that is made in this hadith. Prophet makes us, to pay attention to the point that always be punctual, always be organized, and always pay attention to that. So the same thing can be mentioned here when it comes to the lectures. Those who took subject with me, they know. When I start my new semester, I always say, I don't like when you miss class, huh? And I hate when you come late. Because when you come late, you disrupt the whole class. You disturb everything. And when the student comes late to the class, everybody is looking at him until he goes and sits down. And lecture has to wait until the whole class stops following, by eyesight, following the student, saying, okay, now, done? Okay, we continue. So 1-2 minutes are stolen, interruption happened, disruption happened, and sometimes some students cannot go back to the same point where they lost. And sometimes lecture also cannot recall, where did we stop? What was I talking about? You see, all these shaitanic things happen. Why? Because one student who comes late. You see, that is if one comes. How about many or all students come late? You see, this is zulm. This is zulm. This is real injustice. We have to stop. We have to learn how to avoid this. May Allah help us. And among those good deeds that mentioned in the hadith, the first one, of course, to pray on time at the early time. That one is the most beloved one. So if you want to get love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you want to be beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then make sure that you pray on time, at the beginning, at the early time. And then, of course, the other good thing is that you are showing, goodness to your parents, and then helping fi sabilillah in jihad and so on and so on. Then in terms of productivity, since you are mostly in economics or finance, you're concerned about business environment, for example. In any organization is dreaming about productivity. Okay, because if there is no productivity, it's like a good car that doesn't have petrol in it, cannot move, cannot do anything. It's like useless. So the same thing goes for that. Now, if we really want to obtain the productivity in business, then the punctuality must be there, and there will be blessings as well. How do we know? Because hadith of the Prophet also says, Allahumma barik li ummati fi bukuriha. Oh Allah, bless my ummah in what they do early in the morning, in the day, beginning. Don't sleep until Zuhr time, and then after that you are half sleepy, almost drunk, you cannot understand what you are doing. You have to be fresh. Start doing your job, whatever you need to do from early morning. I'm not talking about the Shahr Ramadan. Ramadan sometimes, because of the lack of sleeping during nighttime, sometimes sleep a little bit here, then a little bit there. It's always, it happens. I'm talking about generally the other time. Okay. Now, there is hadith of Prophet also, which talks, from which you can extract interesting points, which says, Umar radiallahu anhu narrates this hadith that he heard Prophet saying, لو أنكم تتوكلون على الله If you only rely on Him, on Allah, as you are supposed to, as Allah wants you to rely. حق توكل, as it's supposed to be, as Allah subhanahu deserves to be relied on. Okay? لرزقكم كما يرزق الطير كما يرزق الطير. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would give you the provision as He provides it for a bird, the one which goes out in the morning very hungry and comes back with full belly, with goes out with empty stomach and comes back with full stomach. Now, what type of punctuality is this? We're not talking about punctuality. I mean, what is this all about? No. First of all, we're talking about tawakkul ala Allah, relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we Muslims, first of all, we need to rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But not just simply relying. And then you just don't do anything. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written for me, everything will come. This is very wrong. This is abusing the concept of relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tawakkul. After that, the next step is striving. Striving. We need to strive. We have to work hard. Okay? But working hard is also not enough. You have to be organized. How you work hard after you rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The three things. Rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? You can say it like this. Rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then you strive. And then you are being very much organized. Because just rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and work hard, also not enough. For example, me as a lecturer, I have a class, for example, at 10 o'clock. I want to work hard. So what I do, I go out from my house, and by taking a very quick walk, I come to UAE. I want to be punctual. And when I come, especially in Malaysia, all sweating, almost tired, not able even to speak properly. Yes, I believe in Allah, I rely on Allah, and I'm trying to work hard. But is it the proper way? The third element, is it the proper way? Are you being organized? No, you are not organized. You were supposed to go out earlier than that. Not to be sweating, not to be tired. Okay? You need to organize yourself in a way that not only you rely and work hard, but you do all these things in a very organized way. Three elements. Also from Hadith of Prophet ﷺ, the good benefit that we can extract. And of course, anybody in any good company wants to get promotion. Senior one wants to get promoted, the junior wants to get promoted to the senior one, want to get higher position, higher salary, all this about promotion. But you need to deserve that, right? So do we have an example from our history that we can bring in as example? Yes, we have. When Prophet ﷺ got sick, from which he died later on, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what did he say to his wife, Aisha? Call Abu Bakr and ask him to lead the prayer. And Aisha, of course, had her own view on that. She is our mother, of course, من أمهات المؤمنين رضي الله عنها. She said, no, Abu Bakr has a very soft heart. He will not be able to lead the prayer. And Prophet ﷺ said, call Abu Bakr and ask him to lead the prayer. We're not here in this hadith to emphasize on the point that Aisha used to have this, like ping pong, with Prophet ﷺ. No, it was her opinion, whatever it is, even though Prophet ﷺ made this little criticism against her because she said, فَإِنَّ كُنَّ سَوَاحِبُ يُوسُف. Your ladies, your women, like in the time of Yusuf alayhi salam, what they did against him. He was telling them what is correct, what is right, and they never listen. But then Prophet ﷺ, he himself approached Abu Bakr. He went to see Abu Bakr and asked him to go and pray. Then Abu Bakr led the prayer. Now, Coming back to the point that I mentioned just now, it's about promotion. Can you imagine how big and high level of promotion that Abu Bakr got from Prophet Sallallahu? That among all the companions, he stressed this point and he insisted that only Abu Bakr is the one that should lead the prayer for all others. There were so many who got tidings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Mubashirin bil Jannah, that they will enter paradise and so on. Only Abu Bakr. Punctuality, trustworthiness, reliance, anything, goodness, anything that you take, all these characteristics were there. It doesn't mean that Umar and others, they didn't have it. No, all of them, they also had beautiful and very high and so many good characteristics, but Abu Bakr was the highest one. That's why Prophet also chose him. So in any environment that we find ourselves, be it in organization or in a group, let's say you are doing a group assignment. Let's come back to our small way of life. Forget about big companies, like big whatever, societies. Just small group. Each one of group mates and group assignment or group project doesn't do proper job, wallahi, the whole assignment will be affected. All the members will be angry. If one doesn't do the proper job, you see how it is affected? The same thing goes for our life. You might be good at reading books, but you miss salat. You might be very good in understanding computer, but you're not doing the proper job because you are busy with some other things, secondary, third things. So studying well, being serious, systematizing and prioritizing. What is the priority? Number one, number two, number three. You need to know how to prioritize. Being well organized, punctual, serious, all this. It's not impossible to get to Jannah, but it is not easy to get to Jannah. You see, it's not impossible, but it's not easy. We want to get the highest level in Jannah, we have to be observing all these good characteristics. May Allah make us among them. And may Allah help us to keep our promise, not to steal people's time, to show respect to others' time, and how much time they devoted for our meetings, for example, or meeting us, or working with us, because they are dedicating their time to us. And may Allah save us from being hypocrites or arrogant, because if you are stealing others' time, there's a possibility to be arrogant. And if we are arrogant, it's impossible to enter paradise. So it's all these small elements are there, like a chain, chain rings, they are connected to each other. So by looking at the time, we have around 12 minutes, and I promise to give some time for questions and answers. So please go ahead if you have some questions.
Okay, thank you, Dr. OZIEF. Although the topic you have just spoken about, it's very relevant to us as students because we take it for granted, especially, coming late because now it's online and it's ERTL learning. So we're like, no, I can go 15 minutes late. But now we understand, I mean, the status of punctuality in Islam. I personally also am complicit in this because normally if I have my friend and I tell him, oh, we meet tomorrow, inshallah. I know it's not going to happen, but I just use inshallah, which is very common. We have to accept it. I hope I myself have learned a lot today, Alhamdulillah. And I hope that others who are watching also have learned something which we can practice within ourselves, in our studies, in our friendship zone, in our daily life, which will inshallah lead us to a better time management and where we respect the haqq of others.
Amin,
Uh,
ya Allah.
yeah, and then for now, I will just go through some questions here. Maybe doctor can answer for us. This is from brother Izzat Hazik. He says, Salam sir, I have a question. What is your opinion when someone has intention not to attend the event, like a wedding event, that are welcome to come if we can?
Question: what is your opinion if someone has intention to not attend the event, like when? I mean, there are certain situations when it's better not to attend. even if you are being invited. If you know that there is a, it's all about the music, dancing, I don't know, God forbid if drinking or mixed men, females and males are mixed, no Sharia, simple etiquette is observed. يا أخي, it's not only, it's a wajib on you not to attend this type of wedding ceremony. It's a wajib. If you do attend, then you are committing a sin because this environment is not appropriate. How you come out from this issue, they can be different ways. One, not to attend at that particular time, but in the evening, you go and meet that person to show that you respect that person, but you don't like the environment. So if you give a gift or whatsoever, it will show that you were ready to attend if it wasn't the other shaitanic reasons that prevented you. Otherwise, you wanted to respect, you really wanted to go and attend it. Or early than the meeting, very much earlier you go, and it's like you get excused. You can say that you're just simply not able to attend, and you congratulate and you give the gift, for example, or money, whatever is according to your customs, and you go. But if it is if the wedding ceremony is organized in a halal way, in a proper way, with all the etiquette, with all observing the Sharia rules. I mean, I'm talking about the halal and haram. The obvious halal and haram is observed there. Then, of course, it's a sunnah among the five sunnah. If you are called, or I mean, if you received invitation, to respond to that invitation, one of the sunnahs that mentioned in the hadith, one of the five sunnahs that mentioned in the hadith of Prophet, like returning salam, and then saying yarhamukallah when somebody is sneezing, and so on and so on. And among them is responding to invitation.
Okay. Thank you, Doctor. Again, one some question from Brother Izzat. Is it punctuality is attributed to ihsan, and how it works?
No, punctuality is a wajib. It's not about ihsan. Ihsan is something that you do additional, that you are not obligated to do. For example, somebody asks you a question. Can you please tell me where is the kuliya of RKHS? And you are somewhere on the territory of kuliya of economics. You say, sure, sir. You go straight and you turn to the right, and then you will see the library. You go a little bit further up, and then on the left side, right side, the whole kuliya, this and that. It's mashallah, you have done your job before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But you say, sir, no issue. You are older than me. I respect you. I come with you and I personally show where is this kuliya located. That is ihsan. That is ihsan. You were not obliged to do that, but you did it in an additional way. That is the ihsan. Understood? Just a quick example that I can give you.
Okay. Thank you, Doctor. Basically, the extra initiative that you take is ihsan.
Yes. You devote your time, your energy, your respect for something that really worth doing that for the sake of Allah, for the sake of Allah, and then that is ihsan. That is ihsan.
I think we still have some time. We just take some questions here. Brother Muhammad Zikri bin Adnan, he says, Salam, Doctor. I have heard someone say we can delay our Isha prayer so that we can combine it with Tahajjud, but I think the earlier is better. Can I know your opinion about this?
Barakallah fiik. With regards to Isha, it's a very unique situation, not other salats. Isha, we have different hadiths. We can apply the ordinary hadith, as-salatu ala waqtiha, we pray it on time. If you are referring to the salat Isha, whether it is to be prayed on time, jama'ah, in the masjid, there is no doubt, even though we have some other hadiths that deferring the, delaying, for example, the Isha is better, and so and so. Praying in jama'ah, because there are so many good points to collect here in jama'ah, in masjid, behind the imam, 27 times better, and so and so. All these reasons, factors, make it preferable to pray in masjid on time. And other salat layl, you pray it later on. But if you are, for example, musafir, and then you have right to delay it, and so on, like you can pray it on jam' taqsir, jam' taqdim, and so and so, then you delay it, and then you pray after that nafila to rak'ah, and then you pray salat tahajjud as much as you want. But if it's question about masjid and on time, it is second to none. Number one is prayer jama'ah in masjid.
Okay.
I hope I answered that
Uh,
concern or that question.
I hope Brother Muhammad Zikri is happy with the answer. Next one is from Brother Yusuf. I think this one applies to a lot of us as students, especially now in the ERTL, since this whole situation came into play. A lot of us we don't have time management. We go to sleep maybe early morning, or some of us we sleep after suhoor and wake up different timing. So Brother Yusuf wants to know, how do you manage to go to bed early and wake up early?
Wallahi, I tell you honestly, even me myself, I face difficulty with that. Even though the sunnah, immediately to go to sleep after Salat al-Isha and wake up early morning and not to sleep after that. The difficulty in my case is that I come from another environment, from another climate, another society, where customs are different, where people go to sleep early. We don't have these motorcycles and all these lights outside until morning. Nighttime means nighttime. People go to sleep and complete silence. You go to sleep, you don't hear motorcyclists, all this horning and all this stuff, and then you can sleep until, mashallah, you wake up at 3 4 a.m., you're fully already fresh and you had enough sleep. Here, you go to sleep 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, with all due respect, that all parts of the world, all the motorcycles and then the lights everywhere. It's like daytime. So people who don't have problem with that, of course, it is encouraged to follow the sunnah and immediately after Salat al-Isha. But me, myself, that's why, like until almost 12 o'clock, difficult to go to sleep. And then after that, of course, they have to wake up early morning for Salat al-Fajr, even before Salat al-Fajr and so on. But what helps is that at least qaylula, which is also sunnah in our religion, little qaylula somehow compensates what we couldn't get at the beginning of the night. I mean, for example, if we were able to go to sleep at 10 o'clock and wake up around 5, 4 or 5, mashallah, that would be the best one. Health-wise, sunnah-wise, everything. But if you, for example, in this campus, you don't have that noise, all this stuff doesn't have, then you don't have any problem. You should not have any excuse, not to go to sleep. But I also have been staying in this campus when I was a student. Almost like the very, very active time begins during nighttime, and almost goes until 1 o'clock. So in this case, if it happens that almost everybody is facing all this problem, and you, a small group, you couldn't follow what this Dr. Gapur says, in a lecture, at least not to abuse the haqq of the prayer time. You went to sleep late, but make sure that you wake up for Salat al-Fajr. There is no excuse. You handle your sleeping time later on how you want, but make sure that it doesn't compromise on the Salat time and other responsibilities. I had students many times coming to the class, half sleepy, 8:30 class in the morning. They're half sleepy. Say, what happened, sir? I couldn't sleep last night. Why? Then after that, they admit that they were watching football. I said, look, I just give you one thing. Maybe it is going to help you as well. Maybe I'm too strict. Maybe I'm too old for that. I don't know. But I also used to be young, but believe me, I never was crazy about this football. You know why? I had one thing in my mind. These football teams, with all due respect to them, each player of these football teams that you are crazy about while drinking the Gatorade 4 a.m., like clapping and this and that, being crazy, all this. Let me tell you this. They don't even know about your existence in this world, and you are being crazy and watching this football game and wasting your time, and they don't even know about your existence. Forget about your names, your existence. Don't you feel insulted? I used to put this question to myself. These players, they don't even know about my existence. How come I give my time to them? Hey, Subhanallah, where's my respect to myself? Let them watch me if they want. You see? Of course, you can say you're not a famous player, but at least, somebody who doesn't even know about my existence, and I waste for my time for that. I understand if I am spending my time for alim who doesn't know about my existence, but I take ilm from him. Yeah, that is another thing. But wasting time for football, just being crazy, shouting this and that, and after that, the whole day, the next day, talking to their friends, what happened this and how was this pass, and then who lost, and this and that. خرافات يعني. What is this? Nobody says that you cannot play or you cannot learn some technique, this and that. But it's not worth to waste your time that much. Then the next morning when you come to the class, you are late. You cannot think. You look at the lecture and slides, you're like half sleeping. You're like drunk. You don't see anything. So you wasted all the haqq that you were supposed to observe. So I would really want you to pay attention to that for a while. I think this is more than enough for that.
I think, Doctor, that one is very true because normally the matches in Malaysia, the matches start from 3 a.m., 4 a.m., and now
I know that.
Champions League and all that. So a lot of us, we are these team supporters and we are very energetic. But I
I
think
mean, you choose that.
yeah,
You chose that. Nobody
yeah,
forced you.
what doctor said is true actually because they don't know we exist. So I mean that makes sense. Why should I waste my sleep? Why should I not sleep rather than and watch the highlights later? Okay. Next we go to brother one Ahmed Nofal bin Muhammad Nazmi. He says, Sheikh. This is two parts to the question. He says, Sheikh, I've tried to do Takbiratul Ula during my school years where I have to Salat Jama'ah for 40 days, 5 times a day, and I have to do Takbir together with Imam. The problem is that after 40 days, I tend to delay my arrival to the masjid. What is your opinion on Takbiratul Ula?
After 40 days, one more time, can I see this? The problem is that after the 40 days, I tend to delay my arrival.
Tend to delay
Okay.
to the masjid. What is your opinion on the Takbiratul Ula?
So does he wants to say that even after fulfilling these 40 days, it still happened to me, or the last 40 days, the 40th one, I came late? How should be the question understood? The problem
Okay.
is that after the 40 days, I tend to delay my arrival to the masjid. What's your opinion on the takbir ula? No, it's like your question is like it has a dual aspects. One, why after this much struggle, for 40 days to pray with Imam with Takbiratul Ula, and then you tend to come late to the masjid? And what is your opinion on Takbiratul Ula? These are two different questions. It's like you're saying, I'm hungry, and do you know why the bus is late? So why you are hungry is one thing, and why bus is late is another thing. So your tendency to come to the masjid or to arrive to masjid late is that even after struggling hard for 40 days, you you allowed this nafs al-ammarat bisu, your own soul that only orders you to do wrong things, and the shaitan to prevent you from this. You managed very good up to 40 days, then after that you gave up. You lost the battle against them. But shaitan is da'if. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't allow shaitan to take over the true Muslims. So then you need to take it as a challenge. How come the weak shaitan makes me delay for masjid? There is nobody else except me. And then Yawm al-Qiyamah, the shaitan will say, فَلَا تَلُومُونِ لُومُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. And this ayah from the Quran says that Yawm al-Qiyamah, the shaitan will say, don't blame me, blame yourself. I just called you and you responded. I didn't force you. By force, I didn't take you, or I didn't delay you, or didn't do anything. I just whispered and you listened. So this is your weakness. So how come we take the bait of shaitan? Okay, this is with regards to point that you need to struggle back and take this challenge and not to give up. Okay, so that you can continue, inshallah. And takbiratul ula, there is no doubt, there's very high status for takbiratul ula. And the 40 days that you're talking about, 40 days praying behind the imam, it's exactly about the takbiratul ula. Not like after the takbiratul ula finish, and then all they started Fatiha reading, and then you enter the mosque and say, at least I managed to get the first rak'ah. No, no. In the hadith, what is mentioned exactly, Imam says Allahu Akbar, you all say Allahu Akbar. That is the takbiratul ula. So if you manage to be, which means you have to be very ready, which means you have to come a little bit earlier than the prayer is established there. It shows your respect, it shows your time management, it shows your punctuality, it shows your character, it shows your love for, for your attachment to the masjid, which is the Bayt of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are so many good things. It reflects a lot. Reflects a lot. I hope somehow answered your question.
He replied at the bottom, he says, because when I finish the 40 days Takbiratul Ula, it's like the motivation to come early is not there anymore.
Yeah, that's what I said. So you see, I tell you something. Let me rephrase what I said. Somebody who doesn't do good, Shaitan doesn't have to work on him hard. No need, because the wrongdoer is already going to Jahannam. No need. The Shaitan doesn't have to work on him. Khalas, he's already going through straight away. But the one who is doing good and the one who is struggling to be a good slave of Allah, this is the target of Shaitan. This is the target. Oh, this guy is 40 days in the masjid. I'll show you. I'll make sure that I will whisper you so that next time you don't go. And then you will be demotivated. Even though I tried 40 days, then still I go late to masjid. So it means it did not affect it on me. Did not affect on me. It means maybe Allah didn't accept my 40 days. Blah, blah, blah. All this waswasa come. And then you yourself are destroying yourself. It's like you prepared very nice food and you put the poison there. You cannot eat it, and even the food, you wasted it. Israf, you made the whole israf. So it's like I always bring it in my lecture. You make a good halal money, good halal business and everything, and after that you try to use this money with riba. Allah, so you destroyed everything there. You put the poison there. So the same thing. When you start thinking like this and demotivating yourself, listening to the whispering of shaitan, this waswas shaitan, you are showing the weakness to the shaitan. And shaitan, in the kaid of shaitan, kana da'ifa. And the tricks of the shaitans, they are weak. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, don't be afraid. They are tricks of shaitan, but they are weak. Which means if you are victims of those tricks of shaitan, it means you are even weaker than the shaitan. It's a humiliation to us. How come? Where's our dignity? Why don't you say, hey, what is this shaitan? Wallahi, it's not going to affect on me. I have my own mind. I have my own understanding. I'm a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah orders me to do this. That's it. There is nobody, nothing, no shaitan, nobody who will stop me from praying on time and being organized. Just put it as a serious principle. Believe me, then the shaitan will run away. Because it cannot do anything to you. But when you start listening to this whispering, you do this, and then you demotivated, and then constantly you think only negative, then of course the shaitan is playing you like ping pong, left and right, left and right. So it's in your own hands. It's in your own hands. Otherwise, it would be injustice from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If the shaitan is stronger than us, and then we cannot do anything, then we could say, Yawm al-Qiyamah, Ya Allah, you created the shaitan very strong. We couldn't do anything. No, Allah says in the kaid, shaitan can't dive. It's very weak, the kaid of shaitan, the tricks of shaitan. Don't worry. You just put it as a principle. Face it. When you are a young boy somewhere in the neighborhood, it happens that you're fighting with other boys, this and that. If you're constantly afraid and weak, of course, everybody will be hitting you on the head, right? But there must be something in your heart. I'm same boy like other boys. Where's my dignity? I'm not going to allow others. I'm not going to show arrogance, but I'm not going to allow others to joke me like this, or to beat me, or to insult me. I have my own dignity. This is the thing. So, but apply it in terms of religion. That's it, against the shaitan. I hope it helped you.
I think one Ahmed Nofal, I think doctor has answered your question for you. I think, I'm sorry, doctor, I think we overextended the time.
Yeah.
We talked about punctuality, but I'm sorry, we overextended. I apologize for that.
No problem.
We thank you for coming and sharing with us your wisdom and your on more insight into this topic. And I thank the participants for taking part. Jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Yeah. Barakallah fikum. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Assalamu alaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi